The House will come to order. All members take their seats. All guests, please clear the aisle. Clerk, please unlock the machine. All members record their presence by pressing the green button.
Here's your calendar.
Thank you. All members present, please press the green button. Clerk, please lock the machine. There are 51 members present. We have a quorum. Please rise for the invocation to be given to us by Representative Donovan, who will also lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Representative Donovan.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Dear God, help us to always keep the vows we have made to our constituents, to our state and our country. May we always give of ourselves without expecting anything in return. And may we always be faithful and honest with each other and all whom we are here to serve. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Before I go to the approval of the journal, I just want to welcome back Jimmy McLaughlin, our good friend. Yeah. It's nice to see you back here, and we look forward to your floor debates. Thank you. Thank you. Welcome back, Jim, and God bless you. You look wonderful. Thank you. If there's no objection to the approval of the previous journal of the previous day, there is none, so ordered. Communications, clerk, do we have any communications?
Yes, we do, Speaker.
Thanks. Please read and place on file.
Representative Grace Diaz is unable to attend session today, Thursday, May 6th, 2021. Representative Charlene Lima is unable to attend session today, Thursday, May 6th, 2021.
Thank you. Committee reports. There are none. Any new business? Is any new business? Representative Tabone with new business. Representative Henrys with new business. Representative Baginski, do you have new business? Oh, no. No, I guess not. I'm sorry. Any other? Representative Falella with new business. Chairwoman Fogarty with new business. Any other new business? We can come back to new business. Next order is the calendar. Leader Blazajewski.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We have one change to the calendar. Please, I'd like to move item number 5 to Tuesday's calendar, please.
So ordered. Any objection? Thank you. Clerk, please read today's calendar.
Item number 1, number 5130, sub A.
Chairwoman Williams.
Bob. Bernie, how are you? Good, how are you? How you feeling? How are you? That's a good thing.
Yeah. Happy birthday, beautiful.
Thank you.
I'm a Taurus too, but
I'm coming out. I got a lot to say. It is my birthday.
We all know that. You beat us to the punch. Happy birthday.
Thank you. I want to say to each and every one of you present today that this bill comes from a man with a plan, and that man is Representative Bennett. 5130
Sub A, would increase the minimum wage from the current $11.50 per hour to $12.25 per hour on January 1st, 2022, $13 per hour on January 1st, 2023, $14 per hour on January 1st, 2024, and $15 per hour on January 1st, 2025. Do we have comparison? It was definitely vetted thoroughly. Massachusetts, their minimum wage is $13.50. It will proceed to $15 in '23. Connecticut is similar with $12 currently and will continue to $15 in '23. And 5130 originally had a commencement date of October 1st, 21, but in order for businesses to prepare, this bill's commencement date was amended to January 1st, 2022. It is definitely a good bill, and I certainly and proudly move its passage.
Thank you. Chairwoman Williams moves passage, seconded by Representative Speakman, Representative Amore, Chairman Shanley, Representative Perez, Representative Morales, Representative Batista, Chairwoman Ruggiero, Chairman Craven, Leader Blazajewski, Chairman Abney, Representative Donovan, Representative Kazar, Representative Cortravan, Representative Knight, Representative Handy, Chairwoman Fogarty, Representative Agello, Representative Shawcross Smith, Chairman Hull, Chairman McNamara, Representative Kislak, Floor Manager Edwards, Representative Giraldo, Representative Tanzi, Chairman Bennett, Chairwoman McEntee, Chairman Solomon, Representative Kaziro, Whip Kazarian, Representative Alzate, Representative Potter, Representative Barrows, Representative McGaugh, and Representative Messier. Are there any other seconds? Chairwoman Williams is also seconding. Chairman Corvese.
On the bill?
Yes, on the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, members of the House. I rise somewhat reluctantly in opposition of this bill. There are many bills that come before us, and we do our due diligence to try to do what we feel is the right thing. Usually the bills that come before us, we can make a pretty good determination of what is appropriate at the right time. There are bills, by the way, that are freestanding for certain employment positions that I've committed to and will stand by that commitment for $15 or greater. And I hope those bills find their way to the floor so that for those particular employment positions, I can vote for that. However, I'm concerned about the timing of the bill. We are at the end, hopefully, of a pandemic. Our small businesses are struggling. Some businesses, small and large, are having trouble finding employees. My concern is, as we are at the end of the pandemic, these small businesses, moderate-sized businesses, is it going to take them a year or a year and a half or two to come back to life? And while they have to struggle with the day-to-day problems financially for their own businesses, we are putting on an additional burden to them. Now, there is no question in my mind that Representative Bennett and the supporters of this bill have the best of intentions, and I agree with that. And I believe the leadership did an excellent job in staggering the initiation of the various levels of the wages. So I give credit and kudos to that. But my concern is less about the size of the wage increase than it is the timing. And for those reasons, and those reasons alone, I do not support the bill. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. Representative Beginski, and then Representative Morales. Representative Beginski passes. Representative Morales, and then Representative Place.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise in full support of this bill because, as we know, each and every single year across our communities, the cost of living continues to increase, from housing to utilities to groceries to healthcare. Meanwhile, wages continue to remain stagnant, creating an increasing burden on the 70,000 plus people in our state who are working essential minimum wage jobs in grocery stores, big box retailers, restaurants, laundromats, and gas stations. It cannot be overstated how much of an impact increasing the minimum wage will have on our working families. And I know because, based on lived experience, I was raised by a single immigrant mom who was forced to work multiple minimum wage jobs just to make ends meet in terms of covering daily expenses and paying for rent. All that said, however, this story is all too similar because across the state, yes, we have too many working families who are forced to suffer from low wages, despite the fact that businesses can afford to pay higher wages. Yet they continue to see their profits increase and have little to no care of what the wages and the standard of living is for their workers. So although we have heard and will continue to hear somewhat fear-mongering rhetoric from special interests who claim that even incremental increases to the minimum wage will cause the economy to crash and businesses to shut down, all of those falsehoods are easily debunkable because for every state and municipality across the country that has passed legislation to get on a path to $15, including our neighboring states of Connecticut and Massachusetts, none of them have seen a spike in unemployment or a dramatic shift in their cost of living as a result of higher wages for low-income workers. While an economic analysis can explain these lack of consequences in greater detail, it is not a hard concept to understand, as it goes back to the basic principle of purchasing power. In other words, when working people have more money in their pockets, they're more likely to spend it and invest in their local economy. For example, last year when I transitioned from my previous job that paid $38,000 a year to my current job that pays $45,000 a year, I started visiting my local bodega and my convenience stores a lot more, given that I had more purchasing power than before. The same will happen when we raise the minimum wage for the tens of thousands of people in our state. Therefore, the idea that raising the minimum wage will severely harm our small businesses is another false notion because of the fact that we will see an increase in economic activity. Again, similar to the case study of every other state who has passed legislation like this. We also need to recognize the fact that if the minimum wage kept up with the pace of inflation and worker productivity, it would be at least $24 today. So while I am proud that as a chamber, we are taking the necessary steps to ensure that all working people earn the decent wages they deserve, our collective duty to help working people and our most vulnerable is just beginning. Because moving forward, we have to ensure that in future legislation, tipped workers are not left behind, while also tying the minimum wage to inflation following the year 2025. Thank you, and I urge all of our colleagues to support this bill.
Thank you, Representative. Representative Place, and then Representative Nardone.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. If I may, I'd like to move an amendment.
The LC number, please, Representative.
LC 000625/4, please.
Representative Nardone moves for an amendment, LC 00625-4.
I've been called worse.
I'm sorry?
I've been called worse, Mr. Speaker.
What did I say? I'm sorry.
Nardone.
Oh, I'm sorry. His light's lit. I apologize.
I understand. Like I said, I've been called worse, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
Representative Place moves the amendment. Is there a second? Seconded by Representative Fenton Fung, Leader Filippi, and Representative Nardone. Am I correct? Thank you. Proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I don't mean to rehash the arguments of the last, was it Tuesday, dealing with the nursing homes. So I'm going to keep it simple. I introduced a standalone bill last year to account for this very situation dealing with nursing homes. And what that fiscal note came out and told me was that for every dollar increase in the minimum wage, nursing homes would need an additional $2.2 million worth of funding from our Medicaid reimbursement rates. And again, $2.2 million per, I don't know where they're going to get it from. So I don't want to touch on the for-profits, but I do know the nonprofits out there definitely need this assistance. So what the amendment does is that for every increase in the minimum wage, our not-for-profit nursing homes would receive a comparable increase in their Medicaid reimbursement rates, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Representative. Leader Blazajewski.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I object to this amendment. We fortunately did deal with nursing homes yesterday in passing the Quality Care Act for nursing homes, which was great. But this amendment has nothing to do with the minimum wage section of law that's in front of us, Mr. Speaker. I ask it be ruled not germane. Thank you.
Okay. It's been ruled non-germane. Yes.
Mr. Speaker, I'd wish to appeal the ruling of the chair.
Thank you. Representative Nardone appeals the ruling of the chair. If you agree with the ruling of the chair, please. I'm sorry, Representative Place. My apologies. I'll probably do that all day today. Representative Place appeals the ruling of the chair. All those in favor of the ruling, please vote green. If you disagree with the ruling of the chair, please vote red. Clerk, unlock the machine. Clerk, please lock the machine. 49 in the affirmative, 5 in the negative. The ruling is upheld. Representative Nardone, and I got that right.
Thank you, thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm in opposition to this bill for many of the same reasons that Rep. Corbasi had indicated, and for the sake of redundancy, I'm not going to reiterate them. But I think I have a compromise and an amendment. My fear is that the economy is going to take a downturn, and we're due for a recession. We've been having the last, I believe, 7 years of pretty good growth, and if you talk to economists, they indicate that this happens in cycles. So what's going to happen to these small businesses that paying these people these increases in wages? And that's where my concern comes in. So what I do is I have an amendment to the bill, and it's LC 00062512, I believe.
Thank you.
Is that right?
Representative, I'll go over it, but it's /2. Representative Nardone moves LC 00625/2 as an amendment, seconded by Leader Filippi and Representative Fenton Fung, Representative Place, and Representative Chippendale.
Speaker, whenever you get up and you speak and you're against the minimum wage, you do it at the risk of sounding callous. But I believe in minimum wage, and I understand there's a need for minimum wages. But what this legislation does is it mirrors what New York and California did when they implemented a $15 minimum wage. It gives the power to the executive branch of government to look at economic indicators, and if we take a sharp downturn in the economy, what this amendment would do, it would give the executive branch the power to put a pause on the minimum wage increases, where it can be reevaluated and determined that this is detrimental to businesses and we need to relook at it and maybe pursue it on a further date. So that's what the amendment does. I think it's a reasonable amendment, and I'm hoping I get support with it. Thank you.
Thank you. Leader Blazachewski.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, members of the House. I rise in opposition to this amendment. This amendment simply doesn't reflect how government works. We are passing here today, and I'm proud to say we're passing here today, a bill that will put Rhode Islanders on a path to $15 an hour minimum wage. I think it's a good thing for families, it's a good thing for workers, it's a good thing for the economy. What this amendment seeks to do is to take the power out of our normal legal process and put it in the hands of the governor, who can unilaterally block the implementation of minimum wage. Now, when we pass this law, there's been a mirror bill that's passed in the Senate. The governor can choose to sign it or veto it. That's the governor's choice. I hope he chooses to sign it. I think it's the smart move. We have to make sure that Rhode Island stays on track with Connecticut and with Massachusetts and supports its workers. But that's the governor's choice. The governor's choice isn't to sign a bill and then unilaterally decide whether to implement it and at what rate using terms that are undefined. So for those reasons, Mr. Speaker, I strongly urge the body to defeat this amendment. Thank you.
Thank you. Representative Nardone?
That's, Mr. Speaker, Mayor. To our leader point, yes, it is good for employees. It's good for people that get a raise and earn income, but it's bad for business. That's the problem. And it's the business that does the heavy lifting for this state. They're the backbone of this economy, and I think they need some kind of safety net. And if I'm not mistaken, I think we do this with the auto tax. We retract the auto tax when it becomes too burdensome. I'm not sure. Am I mistaken on that? I don't think so. I mean, is it?
If you're asking me,
I believe that's true, that they do have that kind of a power. So I believe this is good for business, and I think it's a compromise, and I think it's a good amendment. Thanks.
Thank you. Representative Place on the amendment. To pass, Leader Filippi on the amendment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I want to briefly respond to my counterpart, Leader Blazewski, about the role of the legislature and the governor, and how it isn't the role of the governor to par back maybe something we have done. We delegate things to the executive branch all the time. I remember being in here a month ago arguing that we shouldn't delegate to the governor our legislative responsibility to deal with the climate crisis, and that we were
I remember that too. I remember that too.
It was unforgettable, Mr. Speaker. And at that, what we were doing there is that we were delegating broad legislative power to the governor to affect anything having to do with emissions. And we objected to that. And my friends on the other side argued that all the time we delegate discretion to the executive branch. It's part of government. It's how we do business. So I don't think that it somehow offends constitutional norms to include in here some type of off-ramp if economic conditions don't warrant a raise in the minimum wage. And it harkens back to an argument you and I had, Mr. Speaker, when I believe you were the chair.
One of many.
One of many that I've always enjoyed. But I think it was probably 5 years ago I had put in an amendment on a minimum wage bill to tie the minimum wage increases in the future to inflation, and saying, listen, that let's just tie it to inflation, and then we won't have to have this argument anymore. And I believe you had stood up and said, no, Leader Filippi at the time, I had no title, but you had said that would be improper because when market conditions change, we don't want to not be able to respond. We don't want the minimum wage to be tied to market conditions. There has to be some way for government to respond and stop the change of minimum wage according to a fixed schedule. And so what I think Representative Nardone is advocating for here is exactly what you advocated 4 or 5 years ago when we tried to tie the minimum wage to the rate of inflation, and that was that we shouldn't have it be automatic, that we should be able to come in and stop an increase or even a decrease, because I believe your argument was about what happens if we have deflation. So in my opinion, I think this makes sense. I don't think it's improper to empower the governor to act if economic conditions warrant it. And I would just respectfully suggest that if the governor acts improperly, then we can serve as a check and balance and remove that power away from the governor at that time. So I think it's entirely appropriate. We don't know what could happen with our economy. We know things are kind of crazy out there. And I think we should be delegating this responsibility to our executive branch to respond to unforeseen economic conditions. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. My memory's slightly different from yours about that discussion, but we'll leave that for another day. Thank you, Leader. There are no other lights on the amendment. All those in favor of the amendment, please vote green. All those against the amendment, please vote red. Clerk, please unlock the machine. Clerk, please lock the machine. 8 in the affirmative, 49 in the negative. The amendment is defeated. Back on the bill, please. Representative Place and then Chairwoman Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. No amendments this time, I promise. I unfortunately do have to stand in opposition to this legislation, and I think I owe it to my constituents to explain to them why. Representatives stood up earlier and talked about the fact that it doesn't impact business, that this is good for the employees, this is good for the workers, it's good for the economy. And something along the lines of how productivity has been increasing. And I think the reason why productivity has been increasing is because of a little something like Wall-E. You go into Walmart and you got this little robot that's floating around the store now. And they've started to automate these things. You walk into McDonald's, and now you order at a kiosk. You walk into a Stop and Shop, and you do self-checkout. Why? Why are they doing all these things? Because these larger businesses, again, we get into this problem where we look at these large businesses that can afford things, and then we forget about the smaller businesses that just can't afford to do the same things. These larger businesses can invest money into productivity. They can invest money into systems that make every worker work better, work faster. Smaller businesses can't do that. And I think a comparison can be drawn, and unfortunately, labor to a business is a cost. And I'm not saying a person, I'm not trying to degrade individuals, but on hand, labor's a cost. And if we want to increase the cost of something, you wind up getting less of it. And that's just the way it plays out. I mean, we talk about increasing the price of soda in here all the time so that we can get less consumption of it because we're worried about people's health. Well, this is just another example of unintended consequences. It's a great idea. It sounds so good, and I understand that. But everything that tells me that the years I spent studying economics, studying accounting, just tells me that when you do something like this, you wind up with less. And the very people we're trying to help out are the ones that are going to suffer the most when this is all said and done. And again, it's not that I disagree with what we're trying to do. I just think we're going to go about it the wrong way. In my study, the two ways you wind up increasing a person's wage is the overall economy increases or the individual skills increase. And those are two things, unfortunately, that we're trying to make up for here. Because over the course of history, we've done a poor job of educating our children. So if we can't educate them properly in order to earn a living wage, we're just going to give them one. If we can't get our economy moving and we can't increase the overall economy, well, we can't do that in this chamber. Well, we're just going to go ahead and just provide it in a different way. And unfortunately, it just works against itself. And when it's all said and done, unfortunately, everything I've seen results in fewer people actually getting a minimum wage when it's finally fully implemented. And that's my biggest concern. You know, I do hope I'm wrong. A lot of times when I stand up here, I really hope that I'm wrong when I say these things, but I can't get away from what I read and what I study. And in this case, I have to oppose the legislation for the reasons I just stated. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Representative. Chairwoman Williams, and then Representative Morgan.
We're extending it one more year. Because of COVID.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, let's have some real talk here. This is one of those bills that pegs one against the other, the us and the them. It's unfortunate, but it's a reality. When we talk about small business, we are talking about the bodegas, the little small beauty shop. We're talking about the reality in our districts, in our cities and towns. When others are speaking, they're talking about the more affluent small businesses. But the real fact about how they were dissed is because the previous administration had all the resources to help them, and they did not. In my district, in the urban core, we, the community, depend on each other. So we go into those small businesses and we provide them with what resources we have for the goods that we need. We also go into those other affluent small businesses and purchase when we can. Unfortunately, many of us haven't been able to because of what we are all dealing with, and that's the pandemic and the reality. So this is an us or them. We will not be able to survive because we're making minimum wage and working 2 and 3 jobs to make ends meet as it is. Those other ones have resources to get, to receive, to assist them to further their business. So this is about us and them. We have come to a crossroad. It wasn't us that kept the resources that was available for those more affluent businesses to continue in their path of success. It wasn't our fault. It's not the little people's fault, and it shouldn't be the little people's fault to be able to be continued to be punished. This is not an instant cure, but it's a step to go to the next level. And I understand and respect that these individuals, these affluent, more affluent businesses will have an impact in their pocketbooks. But just think, they have a pocketbook with resources in it. Not even if it's not just cash, they have the opportunity to apply and get these loans, the opportunity to get resources that the smaller mom and pops in our district cannot at this particular time. So I say to you all, just don't think about your side. Remember, there's more than just that one side to things. It's supposed to be about all of us. We help you, you help us, we help each other, and everything works out. And I appreciate everybody representing their district and their businesses, but the reality is ours matter as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairwoman. Representative Morgan.
Thank you, Speaker. I'm old enough to remember when people got raises because they learned more skills, because they got a job at an entry level and they worked harder, they got more interpersonal skills or technical skills, they improved their value to their employer. This bill envisions giving a 27% raise over the next 4 years to everyone, regardless of whether they are improving their skills, regardless of whether they are better employees, more productive, regardless of whether they have more value. I'm also old enough to remember when our economy actually provided enough jobs that there were opportunities, plentiful opportunities, where if you started at one company and you improved your skills, you could go to another company and get a better job. And you could improve your skills, your worth, your value to an employer, and you could go to another job. Or if you were lucky enough, you were in a big company and you could get raises and promotions. The fact that we are in this room passing this legislation is a symbol of our failure. It's our failure that we have passed so many destructive and damaging policies and laws on our business climate that we no longer have those opportunities. We no longer have plentiful jobs. We no longer have companies that are growing or companies that are looking to Rhode Island for a good place to expand. This is our failure. and we do it every year. We add more and more bad laws and policies like rocks onto our business climate and our economy. And now we're going to pass this one, which is an even bigger rock. Does anyone here think that that 27% increase in employee costs will not find their way into the cost of goods that every consumer is buying? Do you really think that employers make up cash out of thin air? They make their cash out of selling products or services, and they are going to have to increase the cost of those products and services in order to accommodate this 27% mandate. The fact that we are passing this today, or you're passing this today, is a symbol of our failure. Our failure to have a thriving economy that provides plentiful jobs and opportunities for all the people in Rhode Island who want a job. I urge you to vote against it and instead go to work in making our economy thriving once again.
Thank you. Representative Agello, and then Representative Chippendale.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm old enough to remember when the minimum wage actually bore some relationship to the cost of living. When someone working at the minimum wage could begin to think about supporting a family without needing to look for a second job or a third job. I think, Mr. Speaker and members of the House, we've probably got a pretty good bill here. Representative Morgan and others of the Republicans seem to think that a 27% raise in the minimum wage 4 years from now, total, is too much. I don't really think it's enough. I'd really like us to be doing $15 an hour effective January 2022. But there aren't a majority of us in this room who agree with me. So I think, Mr. Speaker and members of the House, we have an adequate compromise here, and I urge my colleagues to vote for this bill. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative. Whip Chippendale, please. And then Chairman McNamara after that.
Thank you, Speaker. I'm certainly not going to talk about how old enough I am to start. We have had this debate, obviously, those of us who've been here, repeatedly over the years, and a lot of the arguments inevitably are the same, because I think fundamentally the economics behind them and the economic principles behind them are the same. We happen to be living in a time where I think we have a better illustration to point to in the context of this debate. And what I mean by that is, although it may make certain folks' skin crawl, we are a free market capitalist country, God bless America. And what we're seeing right now as businesses struggle desperately to get help, simply to keep their doors open, and make no mistake, there are businesses that are shutting down and cutting their hours because they simply do not have enough people to work for them. What we're seeing, and one only needs to open up the Providence Journal, the Boston Globe, or watch any of the 3 news stations. We're seeing companies incentivize new employees. We're seeing companies incentivize existing employees to bring new folks in with money. They're paying a higher rate. They're starting at a higher rate. And the reason is because they need people, and that need is driving that increase in the cost. And that's what a free market does. Where there is a demand, the supply will rise to meet that demand. Right now we have a strong demand for labor, for man hours, and we just don't have enough contributors to that deficit. So the businesses of their own volition and in their own best interest have hiked their starting rates. They're offering signing bonuses, almost as if it's the NFL or something, for someone to come work at their restaurant or their store. And this isn't just in the rich parts of the state. This is throughout. This is everywhere. So I think what we're seeing right now is exactly how a free market capitalist society should advance the wages and the quality of life of those who work for them. There were certainly arguments made reflecting on the onerous regulations and things that we do as a body, and I think most states, to one degree or another, do as well, that make it more costly for businesses to operate. But strictly speaking, as it pertains to wages, the market is going to always correct this. It will do that or it will die. And it hasn't died yet, so it won't. I advocate for that system. Certainly that's not going to happen today, but I think we should recognize that this market will take care of itself. Thank you.
Thank you, Whip. Chairman McNamara, and then Representative Quattrochi.
Mr. Speaker and ladies and gentlemen of the House, as someone that has signed both sides of a check with Joe's Dairy Shops and Leader Felipe Wright, that's Joe's Dairy Shops with 2 P and an A, before its time, when I opened my first shop in 1976, I hired part-time individuals. A lot of times people have a perception that everyone that works, and soft serve ice cream is considered fast food. It takes, it's very quick to serve it, and we introduced a new product called soft serve yogurt, which was turned out to be very popular. I looked at my salaries for my employees, all seasonal, 6 months. I would say less than a third made minimum wage. At one time, I had the Cranston East State Championship girls basketball team working for me. If you wanted to see poetry in motion, they could serve more product in an hour than 10 other individuals. And I will be honest with you, I would give them bonuses occasionally, but I really felt I could never really fully compensate them for the talent that they had. I appreciated all of my employees, and as they went on to college, I would raise their salaries, maybe because I was a teacher and they were fortunate. It was almost like step increases. It may have only been a nickel or a dime, but I was very proud to have large families that would come back and be in my employment. So the minimum wage, even for a small business, and especially in today's economy, I can tell you in the 80s when the economy improved, Mr. Speaker, a 16-year-old that I had spent hours training came into me, I think it was like on a Friday, and said, "Hey, Joe, I just want to give you a heads up. I'm scheduled for tomorrow, Saturday, but the guy down the street is paying me an extra 20 cents an hour, so I took the job." That's what happens with, talented employees, and I think even with this economy. I think the wages will rise on their own, but this is a good guarantee because people work very hard, especially in these fast food positions, and they deserve this. And furthermore, Mr. Speaker, it puts Rhode Island where it should be. We're in the Goldilocks zone between Massachusetts and Connecticut. It's fair. It's fair for a hardworking people. And for those reasons, I support this. It's a well-crafted piece of legislation, very pragmatic, and I would ask everyone to support it as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. Representative Quattrochi, please.
Thank you, Speaker. Could I be marked as present, please?
So ordered.
And in favor of Representative Nardone's amendment.
So ordered.
Could I speak on this also?
Absolutely.
Thank you. So I heard the discussion or the argument of us and them and affluence or non-affluent. And I've owned 2 businesses in the years I've grown up in Rhode Island. And I really didn't realize that I was affluent when I was grinding my knuckles to the bone doing concrete work. And I still don't realize that I'm affluent with grease that's still under my fingernails from owning a motorcycle business, repair shop. The reality of it is, when government became too burdensome for me, I just closed my door. That's it. I said, I'm done. I'm not the only one in this state that's saying that. People are flocking out of this state. Productive people are flocking out of here. My wife and I are trying to figure out what we want to be when we grow up. And we would love to open a business, contribute, help people, hire people. I don't see it happening in this state. I'm 57 years old, and I do not see myself being terrorized by overburdensome business regulations. And this is another one right here. So that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative. Representative Kazar.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I will keep my comments brief. I just want to point out that 70% of the people who make minimum wage or less right now are women. This is a gender equity bill, first and foremost. We will change the economic landscape for single-parent households that are headed by women in our state. It will be a bill that impacts poor families immediately. $15 an hour isn't coming this year for them either. It's going to take a few years, but understand this will change the landscape for women in our state. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative. Leader Blazajewski.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, members of the House. I rise in strong support of this legislation. Putting Rhode Islanders on a path to $15 minimum wage is good for workers, it's good for families, and it's good for our economy. It is also, as Rep. Kassar just said, a necessary step in the fight for justice and equity in Rhode Island. I just want to remind everyone that the fight for 15 began when 200 fast food workers walked off the job demanding a $15 an hour minimum wage and the right to organize. Here in Rhode Island, the legislative work over many years involved a broad coalition of frontline workers, healthcare workers, and advocates for working families. Ladies and gentlemen, this legislation keeps us in line with wage increases in neighboring Massachusetts and Connecticut and will help workers in the economy recover from the pandemic. Mr. Speaker and ladies and gentlemen, for these reasons, I urge your support of this legislation. Thank you.
Thank you, Leader. Leader Filippi.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members of the body. Who can survive on $11.50? I don't know. It's not often that both sides of an argument are right. I don't think that you can survive on $11.50 an hour. But I also know that this is going to hurt businesses. And so I've really thought about this over the years, and I've voted against minimum wage increases. And I've always asked myself, I agree with both sides. Both sides are right. Workers need to make more money. Businesses need to get out from under the oppressive regulations that the state imposes on them. And so I've done a lot of research into inflation, and we're here because of inflation, Mr. Speaker, right? It's just why we need to raise the minimum wage. The price of everything has gone up. And what I've learned is that we're here fighting over scraps. We're here fighting over scraps because federal monetary policy is inflationary in nature, and it causes all of us to sit here and fight with each other and both be right at the same time. And we're both right at the same time is because we have a Federal Reserve System that creates money out of thin air, gives it to rich people, and the people at the bottom don't benefit from it. We only see the cost. There's been a bipartisan bill in Congress for years to audit the Federal Reserve. They create money out of thin air, blow it to their buddies on the street. Rich people get the benefit of that new money when it comes out before it trickles into the economy and creates inflation, and that we all suffer for. This bill passed the United States House of Representatives several years ago, was killed in the Senate, and then it was sponsored in the Senate on a bipartisan basis and killed with procedural machinations. We have a Federal Reserve Bank that through the federal open market window, it's buying stocks, it's doing transactions with foreign governments, it's creating money out of thin air, it's using the fractional reserve banking process where a bank, you deposit $10 in a bank and then they can loan out $100, they only need a 10% reserve. It's creating a fictitious money supply, and it's causing the price of everything to skyrocket. And who is suffering? The workers that are making $11.50 an hour that can't survive on it, and the small businesses that can't afford the increase in the minimum wage that we're going to pass. So I think it's important for us to speak about what's really going on here. And we have a fake money supply, and it's being manipulated. And it's being manipulated by a bunch of people behind closed doors, not to any of our benefits, not to the benefit of most of our constituents, not to the benefit of small businesses. It's being manipulated to the benefit of rich, powerful Wall Street interests, rich, powerful military-industrial complex interests, rich, powerful international interests. And it hurts all of us. And that's what's really going on here. And we need to start waking up and realizing what our money supply is and what's happening to it, and why every few years we have to come in here and both be right. That we're not paying people enough because this price of good has skyrocketed because of inflation, and that our businesses cannot afford to pay any more. And I would urge our congressional delegation to get on board with the bipartisan audit the Fed bill so we can find out what the heck is really going on and what is going on to this day, because it is not to any of our benefit. It's not to any of the 99.9999%'s benefit. It's to the benefit of a very few rich elite people. They get the benefit of that new money, and then we all suffer when it flows to your economy and makes every dollar in our pocket worth less and less every year. And so we're going to keep coming back here, and we're going to keep fighting over this, and we're going to both be right, both sides are going to be right, until the federal government does its job and produces an audit of the banking system that manages our money supply, because we don't even know what they're doing. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Leader. Representative Place.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm definitely not as eloquent as the leader, but I'll try to keep this as quick as I can. I just want to make sure that my comments earlier were clarified. You know, I wasn't advocating for Walmart. I'm not advocating for McDonald's. I'm not sitting here advocating for Stop and Shop, because they're going to get theirs. They always get theirs. Just like the leader just said, they're always going to get theirs. The problem that I have with this is the businesses that are going to be impacted is going to be the Little General within walking distance from my house that I go into on a regular basis. It's the Dino's Stop and Shop, the Dino's in Chepachet that is going to be impacted by this. It's going to be the Brigido's that's in downtown Pasco that's going to be impacted by this. They're going to have to raise the cost of their groceries. And my constituents, the seniors that don't like driving in and out of town, the only place they can go are these locations for their groceries. And if we keep increasing the costs that come along with operating these smaller businesses within our communities, then they're just going to wind up going by the wayside, or they're going to become unaffordable for the very people that we're sitting here talking about trying to help. And again, the McDonald's, the big companies, they're always going to get theirs. No matter what we do, they're always going to get theirs. And like the leader said, we're sitting here arguing over the scraps. And again, I still have to oppose this because it just comes down to the idea that it's going to have unintended consequences, and it's going to hurt the people that we want to help the most, and it's going to benefit those that we're trying to, take down, for lack of a better term. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Representative. There are no other lights. Clerk, please unlock the machine. All those in favor, please vote green. Any in the negative, please vote red. Leader Blazajewski. Any proxies today?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Pursuant to Rule 47 of the House Rules, I have proxy votes in favor of item number 1 from the following representatives: Ackerman, Carson, Diaz, Charlene Lima, Lombardi, Marzakowski, and Rep. Ranglin Vassell. Thank you.
Thank you. Leader Filippi.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Same request in the negative, Representative Roberts.
Thank you. Clerk, please lock the machine. There are 57 in the affirmative, 16 in the negative. The act shall prevail. Next docket item, please.
Item number 2, number 5851.
Chairwoman Williams, please.
House Bill 5851 by Speaker Sakachi would repeal the section in the Rhode Island General Law that currently allows the Director of the Department of Labor and Training to approve a wage rate below minimum wage for those individuals who are impaired by physical or mentally disability. This is a repugnant law, as everyone deserves a fair wage. In committee, all witnesses were in support. Last year, on February 25th, 2020, this House unanimously passed this same bill. It is an excellent bill, and I move its passage.
Chairwoman Williams moves passage, seconded by Representative Henrys, Representative Caldwell, Representative Norrie, Representative O'Brien, Chairman Craven, Representative Amore, Representative Speakman, Representative Donovan, Representative Bia, Representative Hawkins, Representative Morales, Chairwoman McEntee, Leader Blazajewski, Chairman Abney, Representative Vigello, Representative Shawcross-Smith, Chairwoman Fogarty, Representative Handy, Representative Cortravan, Representative Kazar, Chairwoman Williams, Chairwoman Ruggiero, Chairman Azanaro, Chairman Bennett, Floor Manager Edwards, Representative Slater, Chairman Corvasi, Chairman McNamara, Representative Tanzi, Chairman Hull, Representative Falella, Representative McGaugh, Representative Messier, Representative Potter, Representative Alzate, Whip Kazarian, Representative Casimiro, Representative Barrows, and Representative Potter, as well as Speaker Pro Tem Kennedy, all seconding. Any other seconds? Representative Constantino also seconding. On the bill, are there any lights? Representative Cardillo seconding. Clerk, please unlock the machine. All those in favor, please vote green. Any in the negative, please vote red. All represented, please vote. Leader Blazajewski.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Pursuant to Rule 47 of the House Rules, I have proxy votes in favor of item number 2 from the following representatives: Ackerman, Carson, Diaz, Charlene Lima, Lombardi, Marzakowski, and Ranglin Vassell. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Leader Filippi.
Thank you, Speaker. Same request in the negative, Representative Roberts, please.
Thank you. Clerk, please lock the machine. There are 65 in the affirmative, 6 in the negative. The act shall prevail. Next docket item, please.
Item number 3, number 5224, sub A.
Chairman Abney.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Item number 3, 5224 sub A by Speaker Sakachi. This act removes the sunset on the Rhode Island Promise Scholarship Program. It also codifies, consistent with federal law, that students with disabilities shall be afforded a reasonable accommodation to assess the program. There was extensive testimony in support of this bill, including from the governor, the general treasurer, the Commissioner of Post-Secondary Education, Rhode Island Kids Count, employers, and numerous past and present Promise Scholarship recipients and their families. Since the program began 4 years ago, over 8,700 Rhode Island families from every community have benefited. The program has increased college participation, removed a significant financial burden on Rhode Island families, promoted equity in higher education, and provides necessary training for our economy. It's a good bill, Mr. Speaker, and I move passage.
Thank you. Chairman Abney moves passage, seconded by Chairman Craven, Representative Caldwell, Representative Amore, Representative Beer, Representative Hawkins, Representative Speakman, Representative Donovan, Representative Morales, Leader Blazajewski, Chairwoman McEntee, Chairwoman Ruggiero, Chairwoman Williams, Chairman Azanaro, Representative Constantino, Representative Kazar, Representative Cortravan, Chairwoman Fogarty, Representative Agello, Representative Shawcross Smith, Chairman Corvasi, Chairman Bennett, Floor Manager Edwards, Representative Slater, Chairman McNamara, Representative McLaughlin, Chairman Hull, Representative Giraldo, Chairman Casey, Chair Whip Kazarian, Representative Casimiro, Representative Stephen Lima, Representative Alzate, Representative Baginski, Representative Magor, Representative Messier. Speaker Pro Tem Kennedy also seconded, as well as Representative O'Brien. Representative Fenton Fung.
I saw Chairman Casey coming over and I was like, oh, this is going to be hard. And I apologize, I don't know how to do this when you're the sponsor, but would someone yield for a question? I don't know if it's Speaker or Abney.
I'll defer to the chairman, but if I need to, I can jump in. But I have all confidence in the chairman.
Okay, thank you so much. Chairman, one of the things when this program started was to talk about increasing graduation rates at the Community College of Rhode Island. And if we've seen some of the news articles this past week, it's great that we've seen a bit in the hike of participation. But I was wondering if you could let us know, how has graduation rates, especially of the minority communities, which this was really targeted at, and increasing their participation and their degree attainment, how that's coming?
From the testimony that I've heard in committee, the graduation rates are, despite probably what you read in the paper, are beginning to improve. Initially, that was my concern. What would the graduation rates be? What grade point average would you need to, be in this program? But from the testimony I've heard, I don't know the exact number, but it looks like the rates are getting better. And I think that's getting better because the program is known more now. Kids know how to apply, families know how to use it. It's a last dollar scholarship, as you know, and so I think it has improved, particularly in the minority communities, that kids are now able to go to school, and the more that happens, I think the more the graduation rates will improve. But the exact number, I couldn't tell you at this point. I can get it for you, but I know that in committee that I've heard it has improved at some point.
I appreciate that. I didn't expect you to have the exact number, and that's okay. I guess I rise because this bill it tears me up a little bit, because there's definitely, I love the portion that we've added in here about giving reasonable accommodations to people with disabilities. I think that was badly needed. But what I'm hearing from Rhode Island College and URI is what we're basically doing is diverting students who would have gone there, and instead diverting them to CCRI and then coming back. That is financially hurting Rick. I think we've all heard the stories, and we've been hearing it in different committees, about the financial troubles that Rhode Island College is facing at the moment. And Rhode Island Promise certainly keeps coming up in the discussion as one of the reasons why. So it's not so much the intent of the program that I have. I wonder if we're executing this well enough, or if the Rhode Island Promise needs to be revisited again because of the issues at Rhode Island College. And I'm just wondering if the committee is working on anything in that direction.
Well, the committee itself, us, we react to bills and things that we get. We're not specifically working on that now. I do know that came up last year, or when we were talking about it the first time, how it would affect and what effect would it be on the other colleges. But from my perspective, although that too was a concern of mine, as long as kids get to go to school and learn something and become productive citizens, I think it is up to each of those other schools to make sure they attract and get the kind of students that they need. I mean, there is competition in my view is good in that sense, but I do hear what you're saying.
Yeah, I think we need to be able to give Rhode Island College, especially, and this seems to be the bigger problem than versus URI, we have to make sure they have the tools to succeed too, because Rhode Island College is such a great institution for so many, especially in the minority communities as well, that they're to get to a 4-year degree. And I just think that sometimes we're robbing Peter to pay Paul. And so I would urge us over the next few years to really evaluate the execution of Rhode Island Promise and steer that in the right direction, because I hate propagating a program that isn't achieving its goals.
Point well taken, young lady.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you. Representative Amore, and then Chairman McNamara.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I think I can address some of Representative Fenton Fung's questions. The Promise program is at about, that cohort's at about an 18% graduation rate. That doesn't sound great until you compare it to the national 2-year graduation rate, which is about 11.2. So there is a successful increase in graduation rate. To your second point, you're right. And I would encourage you to listen in on the Hope Scholarship Program bill, which I have sponsored, that will be heard in finance in a theater coming to you soon. But Rhode Island College and CCRI do need to connect the tissue so that we can create a situation where there is a pathway that directly leads to a degree in 2 more years. And last night during the subcommittee hearing in finance, that question was asked of President Sanchez and President Hughes, and they both agreed they need to do a better job of connecting those two. Because you are correct, Rhode Island College has suffered because of the Promise. I do think we should be able to do a similar program for Rhode Island College on the back end that's merit-based. But you are correct, there has to be that connective tissue, and your colleagues in House Finance were on those questions last night. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Representative. Chairman McNamara, and then Representative Place.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and ladies and gentlemen of the House. I am totally thrilled with making the Promise program permanent. Mr. Speaker and ladies and gentlemen of the House, Representative Fenton Fung is correct. The perception, I've spoken with President Sanchez on numerous occasions, and if we go back to the original proposal by Governor Raimondo, you'll remember that the junior and senior year at RIC was part of that with the same at URI. Unfortunately, we didn't have time, we didn't have the finances at that time to implement that program. In terms of the graduation rate, Representative Amore has mentioned, they were dismal to begin with, but they have doubled. And within 2 years, CCRI will be the largest community college in New England with the highest graduation rate. And Mr. Speaker, when we originally proposed this, there was a group, and I'm going to say an advocacy group, I don't know what they were advocating, it sounded to me like they were from like Planet Zola, that had people push calling during the day. So they would call up and people would I'd answer the phone and they'd say, Representative McNamara, they told me to tell you that I don't want my tax dollars paying for free tuition. Well, I realized who I was speaking with. Who's home during the day? Mostly seniors. So the first person I said, oh, are you a senior as well? They said, yes. I said, you know when you go to the hospital or sometimes you're in rehabilitation, they give you that tube in your hand with a button on the end? They said, yes. I said, what happens what's supposed to happen when you press that button? Well, someone comes and helps you out. I said, if we don't start educating our population, here's what's going to happen. When you press that button, you know who's going to come? She said, no. I said, nobody. Then each one to the individual that called said, I support that program. And Mr. Speaker, 70% of the jobs of the future are going to need a post-secondary degree or a credential. This is an economic engine for our state that will pay back many, many times over. So I would urge everyone to support it, and also recognize Representative Chippendale for his advocacy in helping out differently able students, and that's mentioned in the bill, and I just want to recognize him for his work and advocating for those students. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Chairman. Representative Place, and then Chairman Hull.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's not about unintended consequence this time. I think we're just getting ahead of ourselves on this one. We're in a state where our K through 12 and our best schools can achieve 50% proficiency on the basic reading, writing, arithmetic. And we've already made a commitment to provide a quality public education at the K through 12 level. And I see this, there's a comment made on Twitter talking about avoiding, we don't want to commit discretionary funds into areas before we start fixing other areas within our budget. And I just see that I just see this, unfortunately, as one of those. We have limited funds. We can't print money like the federal government does. We have limited sources of money. And even if we raise the tax on just about everybody, we're still going to have a hard time finding ways to find those funds. And I just think this money can be spent better. I don't disagree. Many of the young ladies that graduated with my daughter, her best friends took advantage of this program. And I'm not saying it's not a good program. I just think we need to get K through 12 right before we start moving into college. Let's get K through 12 right, and then we can start spending money on providing a free college education. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Representative. Chairman Hull, and then Representative Fenton Fung for the second time.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and my distinguished colleagues. I stand in full support of this bill. The educators in the room say it so well. But I'm up here because what education can do for an individual. And what's actually happening in our early schooling, it's actually failing. But our governor and our legislators took it upon themselves to say, hey, let's keep it going. It's not always about money. It's about quality and a functioning public. That's why when we start pitting against each other, I have difficulties with Rhode Island College, URI, CCRI are our pillars. They are our education system, state educational system that will be funded. Because I tell you, a program like this just extends people out of poverty and puts them back on the mainstream into society. So my distinguished colleagues, I vote in favor of this bill, and I hope you all also. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Chairman. Representative Fenton Fung, and then Representative Morgan.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I can't agree more than with my fellow descendant from County Cork, Chairman McNamara, on the power of this education. I think the issue, and to Chairman Hull's point too, the quality of education also speaks so clearly here. I mean, we know many of our kids who go into CCRI right now on the scholarship and off of it need remedial math, remedial English skills. So, I mean, that's a whole different issue that we're working on in other committees. And thank you so much, Rep. Amore, for the 18%. I did see that in the paper, but from what I was told, that includes everybody. That's not just looking at the minority population that we were really looking to try to boost up with this program. And so I stop and think, boy, if these were the kids who were going to RIC 2 and we're only getting to 18%, it's worrisome, right? That we're not doing something right on the execution of this program. So I'm probably going to support this bill today because the issue with the kids with disabilities and all the amazing advocacy that Rep. Chip did. But I really think that we need to keep a very close look on this program on an annual basis and start making adjustments so that we do not lose the quality and lose the ability for RIC to be a functional college here in this state, and that we don't let other kids down because we were too busy just trying to get a specific program through. I appreciate the time.
Thank you, Representative. Representative Morgan.
Thank you, Speaker. I'm actually very much in favor of scholarships, but scholarships that reward. We're giving free money out here. It's other people's money. And it should be for a job well done. CCRI is open enrollment, which means they take everybody. That's okay if it's their own money, but when it's other people's money, it should be for a job well done while they were in high school. And there's nothing merit-based in this legislation. You know, you have to work for things sometimes if you want to succeed, if you want to get that extra skill, if you want to get that 2-year degree. It's not just about kind of showing up, it's about being there every day. So good attendance, studying, doing well on your tests, learning the skills that you need in high school so that you'll be successful in community college. And unfortunately, there is just nothing in this bill that says we'll give this free money, this scholarship, to those students who are putting in the effort. I'm in favor of scholarships. That's how I went to college. But I had to work for it. And I think if we use this more as a carrot, as a promise to those students who are in high school, that if they show up every day and they learn and they study, that they can get this scholarship, that it would serve our state better than just giving out free money and watching 82% of the kids not graduate. I'm going to vote against it on that principle. Thank you, Speaker.
Thank you, Representative. Representative Amore, please.
Thank you, Speaker. There are a couple of issues here. By 1930, every American state decided that comprehensive high school should be a requirement. That was based on the changing economy. That was based on how the country had changed over those years. Originally, we required primary school only. By 1930, we decided that wasn't enough. As we have moved into the 21st century, and Representative Place spoke eloquently about skilling up, I believe that the Promise program is that next step from requiring 12 years of education to the public supporting beyond 12 years of education for just those reasons that Representative Place outlined. So that's point one, the larger view of what the Promise is about. Point two, to Representative Morgan's point, you're correct, Representative. The first year requires nothing but you graduating from high school. But the second year is merit-based. You have to take a full course load. You have to earn a 2.5 GPA in order to get the second year. So the second year is merit-based. In regard to where we go from here and the purpose of the scholarship, let's remember that 50% of our CCRI students are there on Pell Grants already. So while this program may have been sold for a whole host of reasons, including to increase minority participation, the reality is that it really targets those working class kids who want to avoid big college debt, who want to try to get their four-year education, if they went to RIC, for somewhere around $20,000 total. And it allows a whole host of kids to get their certifications and their credentials in other areas that allow them to work in the workplace with a little more skill and a little more pay. So I think we're talking about a whole host of things, including proficiency at the K through 12 level. I always hear this, and I gotta tell you, Rhode Island public schools are ranked dead in the middle. We are not last. It's a terrible narrative, and proficiency means excellence. Our kids, by and large, are about 70% at basic attainment. So even Massachusetts, which is the gold standard for education in Rhode Island, they're at 52% proficiency. And they rank across the world as a leader in education. So we sometimes get our terms mixed up and we sometimes sell ourselves short. Rhode Island public education is in need of improvement, for sure. I've sponsored legislation to do so. But we are not at the bottom of the barrel as the narrative has been portrayed. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Representative. Representative Alzate.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So I am a public school kid. I went to CCRI, I went to RIC, and I also went to Roger Williams University. I could have used a scholarship like this one while I was in high school applying to colleges. Because this was not available during that time, I am in tons of debt from just those 3 schools. I did my 2 years at CCRI. We all know education is not linear, so I did 4 years, and I think it was maybe 5 years at RIC. And I also did 2 years of a master's program. So needless to say, there's a lot of debt that comes with who I am. We know that having student loan debt is crushing for communities like mine, for people who are Black and Latinos. Unfortunately, as a first-gen kid, I don't have a lot of the privileges that a lot of my counterparts have had growing up. A scholarship like this opens the door to so many of us, who allows us to continue our education. And I understand it's important to be able to give out scholarships to kids who do well. I'm just a decent kid from public school. I wasn't on honor roll. I didn't do all the extracurricular activities that I probably should have done. However, that did not stop me from still attending college. College was really tough for me, and I still went beyond just getting a regular bachelor's degree. I have a master's degree. People from my community, through this scholarship, have the opportunity to advance their education and not be in tons of debt. We know that college debt really hurts us when it's time to buy homes, get loans maybe for a car, get loans for whatever. We know that having crushing debt is more harmful than people know. And so that's why I'm supporting it, because something like this helps my community, it helps push all of public school kids forward to higher education, which leads to better jobs, which leads out of poverty, which leads into better salaries. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Representative. Thank you. Representative O'Brien, please.
Thank you, Speaker. And I agree with my colleague 100%. And let me tell you about the programs at North Providence High School. This year, in September, 151 of our sophomores will be going into a program where in 2 years they will graduate with a high school diploma and an associate's degree. Now that's education, that's moving things forward. But let's say 2 or 3 of them are 1 or 2 credits behind. they can go to CCRI also for free and receive the same associate's degree in one semester. These programs, the cut, like the Do Education and the Promise, these programs cut education in half in the state of Rhode Island. People will get BA degrees for $20,000 instead of $40,000, and that matters. And I strongly support this educational initiative. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative. There are no other lights. Before we vote on this bill, I'd like to just publicly acknowledge and reach across the aisle to Representative Chippendale, who worked with me on this bill, as well as one of the original sponsor who always helps me, Representative Amore. So I want to thank them both. Clerk, please unlock the machine. All those in the affirmative, please vote green. Any in the negative, please vote red. Leader Blazajewski.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Pursuant to Rule 47 of the House Rules, I have proxy votes in favor of item number 3 from the following representatives: Ackerman, Carson, Diaz, Charlene Lima, Lombardi, Marzlikowski, and Ranglin Vassal. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Leader Filippi.
No proxies, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
Thank you. Clerk, please lock the machine. 66 in the affirmative, 5 in the negative, excuse me. The act shall prevail. Next docketed item.
Item number 4, number 5763.
Chairman Casey, please.
Thank you, Speaker. House Bill 5763 by Whip Kazarian is an act, related to insurance, accident and sickness insurance policies. This act would prohibit insurance companies from varying the premium rates charged for health plan coverage based on gender of the individual policyholder, enrollee, subscriber, or member. This would take effect January 2023. It's a very good bill. I move passage.
Thank you. Chairman Casey moves passage, seconded by Whip Kazarian, Representative Casimiro, Chairman Solomon, Representative Giraldo, Representative Potter, Representative Messier, Representative Alzate, Representative Stephen Lima, Representative Potter, Representative Magor, Floor Manager Edwards, Representative Kislak, Chairman McNamara, Representative Tanzi, Chairman Hull, Representative McLaughlin, Representative Kazar, Chairwoman Fogarty, Representative Shawcross Smith, Representative Agello, Representative Cortravan, Chairwoman Ruggiero, Chairman Abney, Representative Donovan, Representative Bia, Representative Cardillo, Representative Morales, Chairwoman McEntee, Chairwoman Vella Wilkinson, Chairman Shanley, Representative O'Brien, Representative Caldwell, Chairman Craven, Representative Phillips, Representative Henrys, Representative Amore, Representative Speakman, and Chairman Casey also seconded, as well as Representative Norrie and Speaker Pro Tem Kennedy. Any of the seconds? There are no lights on the bill. Clerk, please unlock the machine. All those in the affirmative, please vote green. Any in the negative, please vote red. Leader Blazajewski, please.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Pursuant to Rule 47 of the House Rules, I proxy votes in favor of item number 4 from the following representatives: Ackerman, Carson, Diaz, Charlene Lima, Lombardi, Marzlikowski, and Ranglin Vassal. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Leader Filippi.
Mr. Speaker, please forgive my error. On the prior bill, 5224, I have a proxy vote in the negative on behalf of Representative Roberts. On this bill, I do not have a proxy, please. Thank you, Speaker.
So ordered on the last bill. Clerk, please lock the machine. 71 the affirmative, 1 in the negative. The act shall prevail. Thank you. That concludes today's calendar. Announcements and introductions. Do we have any announcements and introductions? And we have quite a few announcements and introductions today. Chairwoman Serpa. Item number 5 has been moved to tomorrow, next week's calendar, in case anybody was wondering what happened to item number 5. That was done at the beginning of session. Chairwoman Serper, and then we will go to Representative Baginski.
Request, please, Speaker.
Proceed.
May I please be marked in the present? I've been voting right along. And may I also be marked in the affirmative on upholding the rule of the chair on the first bill?
So ordered, and Representative Bia has the same request. Representative Baginski, and then Representative Agello.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Pursuant to Rule 7D, I'd like to introduce new legislation when we reconvene.
On what topic, please?
On reimbursement for physicians.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Representative Agello.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I've spoken before and I've voted right along, but I didn't manage to check in it at the beginning. I'd like my presence to be counted today.
So ordered.
Thank you.
Representative Messier. And then Chairman McNamara.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Request to be confirmed as present for today.
Thank you. So ordered. Chairman McNamara.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. With the permission of both leaders, I have a House resolution for immediate consideration proclaiming the week of May 3rd through May 7th of 2021 to be Teacher Appreciation Week in the state of Rhode Island. I move passage, Mr. Speaker, and salute to all our 10,000 public school teachers who keep democracy alive and vibrant every day, and through their dedication, keep the American dream alive. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Chairman. Representative Casimiro, and then Representative Barrows.
Thank you, Speaker. With the permission of the majority and minority leaders, I have a House resolution for immediate consideration celebrating the week of May 6th through May 12th as National Nurses Week in the state of Rhode Island.
Thank you. Please send it up. Representative Barrows, and then Representative Fenton Fung.
Mr. Speaker, I think I voted yes on item number 3, but if I didn't, can I be marked as voting in the affirmative?
On calendar item number 3, so ordered. Representative Barrows in the affirmative.
Thank you.
Representative Fenton Fung, and then Representative O'Brien.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. With the permission of the majority and the minority leaders, I'd like to introduce a House resolution for immediate consideration celebrating National Hospital Week from May 9th to May 15th in the state of Rhode Island. There is no other, house of professions that right now is more critical to the state and has really been the lifesavers over the past years. Nurses who haven't seen their families in months, doctors who have worked extra shifts for days on end. The hospitals have really come to full fruition here in the pandemic, and I'm pleased to offer this resolution honoring National Hospital Week and everything they're doing and how the landscape might be changing in the next few years. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Please send it up. Thank you. Representative O'Brien, followed by Chairman Casey.
Thank you, Speaker. Announcement?
Proceed.
Under Rule 7D of the next legislative day, I will be introducing legislation related to insurance, two bills related to insurance.
Thank you very much, Representative. Chairman Casey, and then Chairman Craven.
Thank you, Speaker. Under the provisions of House Rule 7D, on the next legislative day, I will be submitting legislation relating to motor vehicles regarding accidents and accident reports. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. Chairman Craven, please.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Pursuant to Rule 7D, on the next business day, I will be submitting legislation in reference to the exciting topic of commercial law and specifically receiverships. Thank you.
Thank you very much. A very exciting topic indeed. Thank you, Chairman. Representative McLaughlin.
Yes, Mr. Speaker and members of the House, I would just like to take this opportunity to thank all of you for your thoughts and your prayers And I just want you to know I love all of you. And, I'm on the mend. I got some new plumbing, so I'm good for another 100,000 miles. So basically, I'd like to take this opportunity to wish all you girls out there a happy Mother's Day, okay? And for all you men, to wish your wives a happy Mother's Day and your moms, okay? Because they're the greatest. For that, thank you so much, and God bless.
Thank you. It's great to see you back here, Jim. Thank you very much. Any other announcements? Floor Manager Edwards.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On the next legislative day, I have legislation I'll be introducing for uniform controlled substances, offenses, and penalties.
Thank you. Leader Blazajewski.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Announcement, please.
Proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Next week, ladies and gentlemen, we'll be meeting here in session on Tuesday and Wednesday. So for everyone, please keep in mind we'll be meeting at the Vets Tuesday and Wednesday, May 11th and May 12th at 4 p.m. And there will be no session next Thursday because the Vets is unavailable. And I would just ask to add my welcome back to Rep. McLaughlin. Rep, it's so good to see you here, and good health to you as well. And I would, of course, be remiss if I didn't wish a very happy birthday to Chair Anastasia Williams. Chair, happy birthday.
Happy birthday, and yes, it is great to have Jimmy back with us. I have several resolutions. We can go back to new business. Do you have new business, Representative Slater? New business. Any other new business? Representative Tanzi with new business. Any other new business before I go to announcements and introductions? Representative O'Brien with new business. Any other new business? Thank you. I have a House resolution. Representative Cortravan with new business, too. Any other new business? I have a resolution celebrating National Hospital Week on May 9th through May 15th in the state of Rhode Island. All those in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. Thank you. I have another resolution celebrating the week of May 9th through May 12th as National Nurses Week in the state of Rhode Island. That is sponsored by Representative Casimiro, seconded by myself, Lita Blazajewski, Representative Norrie, Chairman Shanley, Chairman Bennett, Whip Chippendale, Representative Fenton Fung, Representative Place, and Representative Filippi. All those in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. I have another resolution proclaiming the week of May 3rd through May 7th to be known as Teacher Appreciation Week in the state of Rhode Island. Brought to us by Chairman McNamara, myself, Lita Blazajewski, Representative Amore, Representative Donovan, Representative Speakman, Representative Henry. All those in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. I have a resolution expressing condolences moved by Whip Blazajewski, seconded by Lita Blazajewski, seconded by Lita Filippi. All those in favor of expressing condolences, please say aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. I have a resolution extending congratulations by Lita Blazajewski, seconded by Lita Filippi. All those in favor, please say aye. The ayes have it. Any opposed? The ayes have it. Representative Alzate, you want to be recognized? Yes, proceed for an announcement.
So on Monday is my dad's birthday, so I just wanted to wish him a very happy birthday, love and miss you, and I know he watches this, so, I had to do it. So happy birthday, Dad, love you.
Happy birthday to him. Happy birthday. You got a great daughter. Is there any objection to transmitting all matters on the clerk's desk to the Honorable Governor, the Honorable Senate, or the Secretary of State forthwith?
Williams.
Hearing none, so ordered. Chairwoman Williams, please.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We will be remiss to also recognize another birthday of one of our colleagues. Representative McEntee's birthday is tomorrow. Torian's in the house.
That's right. Chairwoman McEntee, happy birthday as well. Chairman Solomon. Chairman Solomon, please.
Thank you, Speaker. I'd also like to wish my mother a happy birthday, whose birthday will be on May 10th on Monday.
Thank you. Happy birthday, Cindy. Representative Felix.
Speaker, I would like to record my votes as yes to all 4 votes, please.
So ordered. I can't hear you, I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry. And also my attendance recorded, please.
Of course, absolutely,
Thank
so
you.
ordered. Thank you. Leader Blazajewski moves that the House adjourn, seconded by Leader Flippy. All please rise. The House is adjourned. The desk remains open. I know.
Okay. All right, perfect. Yep.
We good?
Great to have you back.
Great to be back.
So I have Archimedes missing proxy, Carson proxy, DS
You ready to rock and roll?
Tiffany proxy, Lombardi, Marzikowski.
I got one. I got one on the table. I'm going to grab it. We'll do that last. Let these people sign them.
Okay.
House resolution proclaiming the week of May 3rd through May 7th of 2021 to be Teacher Appreciation Week in the state of Rhode Island. Whereas every successful person in the Ocean State owes a great measure of their achievement to the dedication and hard work of teachers who inspired them to open up their minds to the magic of ideas, knowledge, and dreams, and find the very best in themselves. And whereas learning is a process of discovery, teachers across this country utilize innovative and dynamic methods to inspire young people to be curious about the world around them, to explore better ways to understand their environment, and to develop the critical thinking skills necessary for their success as adults. And whereas cities and towns in Rhode Island employ approximately 10,000 full-time public school teachers and many more private school teachers, these professionals consistently demonstrate laudable commitment and competence through their willingness to provide the time, energy, talent, and ideas to ensure that Rhode Island's 143,557 students have the opportunity to fulfill all of their potential. And whereas teachers spend countless hours preparing lessons, evaluating progress, counseling and coaching students, consulting with parents, and performing community service, teachers also fill vital roles in the lives of many young people, often as listeners, role models, explorers, motivators, and mentors. Whereas teachers keep democracy alive and vibrant by laying the foundation for good citizenship.
They display daily the value of public service. Their hard work and efforts are directly responsible for creating the leaders of tomorrow. And whereas many of us who are, because at least one teacher in the past ignited a spark within us. They touch and mold the lives of our children, and they have earned and truly deserve the gratitude and respect of students, parents, and community members throughout the state. Now, therefore, be it resolved that this House of Representatives of the State of Rhode Island hereby declares the week of May 3rd through May 7th of 2021 to be Teacher Appreciation Week in Rhode Island. We heartily thank all of Rhode Island's teachers for their tireless devotion in educating and developing our children, and be it further resolved that the Secretary of State be and hereby is authorized and directed to transmit duly certified copies of this resolution to Francis J. Flynn, President of the Rhode Island Federation of Teachers and Health Professionals, and Lawrence E. Purtell, President of the National Education Association of Rhode Island.
That's okay. I got it.
Okay. House resolution celebrating the week of May 6th through May 12th as the National Nurses Week in the state of Rhode Island. Whereas National Nurses Week is a time to recognize and honor this year's theme, A Voice to Lead, a Vision for Future Healthcare. It is also a time to acknowledge and express our heartfelt gratitude to our state's brave, dedicated, and determined nurses who are and have been on the front lines day after day and month after month for more than a year, working to save the lives of our loved ones during the global COVID-19 pandemic. And whereas registered nurses in the United States constitute this nation's largest healthcare profession, and whereas the depth and breadth of the registered nursing profession have met and exceeded the different and emerging healthcare needs of the American population during this pandemic and in a wide range of settings. And whereas the American Nurses Association, as the voice for registered nurses across this country, is working to chart a new course for a healthy nation that relies on increasing the delivery of primary and preventative health care and requiring better utilization of all our nation's registered nursing resources. And whereas professional nursing has demonstrated itself to be an indispensable component in providing safety and quality of care for hospitalized patients and for playing a pivotal role in addressing the concerns and quelling community fears during the pandemic. And whereas the demand for registered nursing services is greater than ever due to the aging of the American population, the continuing expansion of life-sustaining technologies, the explosive growth of home healthcare services, and the need to develop coordinated networking to prevent and contain new and emergent widespread infectious diseases. And whereas more qualified registered nurses will be needed in the future to meet the increasingly complex needs of healthcare consumers in this country and across the world. And whereas the cost-effective, safe, and high-quality healthcare services provided by registered nurses will be an increasingly important component of the United States healthcare delivery system in the future. Now, therefore, be it resolved that this House of Representatives of the State of Rhode Island hereby joins the American Nurses Association in celebrating the week of May 6th through May 12th, 2021 as National Nurses Week. And be it further resolved that this House, moreover, urges all the residents of the state to join in honoring and thanking the registered nurses who have selflessly cared for us all, and to celebrate their efforts and accomplishments in improving our healthcare system, not just during this week, but at every opportunity throughout the year. And be it further resolved that the Secretary of State be and hereby is authorized and directed to transmit a duly certified copy of this resolution to the American Nurses Association, the United Nurses and Allied Professionals, and the Rhode Island State Nurses Association. House resolution celebrating National Hospital Week on May 9th through May 15th in the state of Rhode Island. Whereas National Hospital Day was set aside in honor of Florence Nightingale, the woman who made nursing a respectable profession and who revolutionized the way hospitals were run.
The May 12th observance was expanded to a week-long event in 1953 so that hospitals could use it to plan and implement more extensive public information programs, and is currently sponsored by the American Hospital Association. And whereas National Hospital Week 2021 celebrates inspiring hope through healing, and the hospitals, healthcare systems, and the women and men who support the health and well-being of their communities through dedication and care from the heart. And whereas the more than 6,090 hospitals across the country are an economic mainstay, employing more than 6.2 million persons across the United States. And whereas hospitals in Rhode Island have generated 40,980 jobs and contributed $6.7 billion to our local economies, dispensing a significant impact on both community health and the economy at large. And whereas providing everything from emergency care, labor and delivery, minor surgery, and specialized care, hospitals, big and small, fill a vital need in our communities, and every nurse, doctor, practitioner, and staff member are essential in the compassionate delivery of the much-needed quality services. And whereas National Hospital Week is a time to raise awareness of the importance of hospitals and health systems, and to highlight the critical role hospitals and healthcare professionals have in our local communities. Now, therefore, be it resolved that this House of Representatives of the State of Rhode Island hereby recognizes May 9th through May 15th as National Hospital Week, and acknowledges and thanks Rhode Island's healthcare professionals for working diligently to provide countless men, women, and families with quality health insurance, and for building a brighter tomorrow for future generations. And be it further resolved that the Secretary of State being hereby is authorized and directed to transmit a duly certified copy of this resolution to Teresa Piva Weed, President of the Hospital Association of Rhode Island.